Your Sundays are for the Spanish princess. Will Catherine be staying in England? Will the Tudor curse be broken? Stay tuned for Season 1, Episode 3 of The Spanish Princess, An Audacious Plan on AfterBuzz Dramas now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody. We are back again this Sunday on the Spanish Princess After Show. My name is Tsahai Wilson, and I am your lovely host. I have three lovely queens with me this week. Ladies, please introduce yourselves.
I'm Rachel Goodman.
Hey, how's it going? Kari Lane here.
Hey guys, it's Virginia Reina.
So this was a good episode. We're kind of getting into the swing of things. What were your overall thoughts about this episode?
It was heavy, and that could be a really bad pun, too. But yeah, it was just like, oh, at the end you go, well, on that note, let's talk about it. Yay!
Yeah, it was a little bit of a downer.
Yeah.
I think the worst part was just seeing the dead baby. Like, oh, that's just so heartbreaking ever to witness, you know?
We saw a lot of political ambition from Catherine.
Yes.
That was obviously not realistic, but in the context of this being historical fiction, I actually really loved that we saw a very powerful female character.
Definitely. Yeah. We have so much for you tonight. We have some news and gossip. We have our special segment, Keeping It Real. And you'll also get to see some photos of me at the royal wedding, because I was actually a guest there. So let's get into it. Also, we're in the live chat tonight, so give us your comments and tell us what you thought of this episode. You know, for me, I'm getting warmed up to these characters now. We're in week 3, and Catherine has been through so much. She's got a dead husband, a crazy kind of in-laws, and now this week she's trying to save herself from having to go home. So what I found interesting was that, so Catherine is, after the death of Arthur, she has to figure out what's next for her. Does she stay or does she go? It feels like Arthur's family kind of wants her to go, but Catherine's like, no, I need to stay. And it doesn't only affect her, it affects her country and her entire court, meaning Rosa and Lina and everyone else. So she's trying to figure out what her plan is. And what she comes up with is kind of seducing Harry, which I liked. And it's speaking to what you were saying about a strong female character. We see that in the way she moves with Harry.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is that there's her whole entire plan. I wanted to know, like in the beginning of this, I was trying to figure out what was motivating her to stay and not just say, all right, well, I'm going to go home.
Right.
But
It's her destiny.
Yeah, and just she made a really valid point during the episode along the lines of, I don't want to just go back and get married off to another country.
Right.
Right.
So really, she was putting the needs of her country before anything else and before what she actually wanted, because like you, I was getting a sense of she was no longer welcome from pretty much everybody except Harry.
Definitely. We open up with Catherine at the funeral and the funeral procession, and Arthur's grandmother has sent a little carriage for her, but she chose to ride on a mule. What did you guys think of that?
I thought it was interesting they called it a litter. I've heard of it as a palanquin, but
Yeah.
that's more to carry a bride. But
Okay.
I guess it's the same shape. So I was like, a litter? That sounds like a horrible name. Because like, I was saying cat litter.
Right.
Right, that's what I thought.
But I think it's her asserting this is the way I do it. Yes, I'm going to do some of your traditions, but this is the way I want to go about it. And I like the thing later where Lina tells the Queen Mother that, or Mother of the King, that, you know, the mother of Jesus rode on a mule too.
Right.
And it is I think it's a more humbling thing, and I think Catherine believes in it as well, and it made her probably look better in the eyes of the people, and not necessarily she was trying to do it for that purpose, but inadvertently they're like, oh wow, that she's out in public, because the other thing is in that litter, probably pull the curtains, they probably don't get to see her face at all, and so this is like, I am here, you can see how I feel about this, and I am not so high and mighty to ride on some fancy stallion.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And getting to your point, like, I do believe that, you know, all of these kings and queens, they believe that this was their destiny. Like, they were made to be the queen of, you know, like, she believes she's going to be queen of England. So she's got to figure out, like, how can I be queen of England so I don't have to be queen of France? And, you know, like they said, passed around to all of Europe.
Right.
I mean, that must be horrible. And she already had an experience, and now she's trying to get used to Europe or England, you know? So, like, I don't know. I just feel like for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm staying.
Well,
I'm going to
see,
figure this out.
You you can lead a donkey to water, but you can't make it drink. So in terms of God has given her this plan, but he's not going to give her all the easy steps. So she goes, yes, this is my destiny by God, but I got to be active in it. So I like that she's being proactive, not just, well, God's going to make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I have to do something.
Yeah. And that's very, like, from what we've seen of her from the beginning, she's very headstrong.
Yes.
She is going to be who she is, but she's also not gonna forget her cultural background, even though we were talking about the Spanish Inquisition before the show, and it's just interesting to me knowing what was happening in Spain and that she's not letting her upbringing go, even though she wants to stay in a country that is foreign to her.
Right, because she sees that there's more, her staying means so much to so many people. Going back to the funeral, we saw Lina and Rosa wailing as a part of their culture, and the Arthur's family being like, what's going on here? But his mother, Queen Elizabeth, was like, let them wail, because she was taking the death so hard.
Yeah.
Right, and I almost feel like it was like her way of actually wailing without having to do it herself, because like they can't express that emotion. Right, exactly.
Yeah. What I also liked was that Harry met Catherine right at the front of the church, and it kind of reminded me of the wedding, because he walked her down the aisle during the wedding, and here it is, he's walking her down the aisle for his brother's funeral. But still, that's where we saw the flirting. It was like the door opened at
He
at
did
the
not
funeral.
let go of that hand as quick as
No,
she
he
did. And I was going to say to earlier of her seducing him, I'm like, she did not have to try that hard. She just more had to be like, green light, go. Like, here are all the signals. She already kind of knew he liked her.
Yeah.
But now it's the, yes,
I'm still
how
on the
some
market.
people, not just men, but women can be dense too. Of like, no, like this is good. Let's keep proceeding.
Yeah.
And they are setting this up to make it look like he is the good guy.
Exactly.
And that she is going to be the one who lied to him,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that he always had pure intention. So they are automatically, like, they're taking the debate out of this for us.
Well, I hope not, because we see it's a kind of like a dance that they're playing.
Yeah.
Like she's playing a game, he's taking the bait sometimes, but he's also playing a game with her too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's the thing with a historical drama like this. It's like there's the things that the writers are writing, and that yes, they're pulling from historical facts, but like how are they playing it in the show is also going to be interesting to see. So we also, the other issue that Catherine had is Maggie Pole gonna confirm her story? So in order for this plan to work, she has to have everyone believe that the marriage was not consummated with Arthur, and that she's still basically an eligible bachelorette and available to marry Harry. Did you think Maggie was gonna mess her up and spill the beans?
I thought Maggie was going to do exactly what she did, because I know that Maggie is a very honest person. That and the fact that she really loves Arthur, and so she was not going to do anything that would betray his integrity and betray her feelings for him. And she barely knows Catherine. Like, yeah, Catherine did apologize to her, and they were on pretty good terms, but she doesn't know Catherine that well, and they don't have a bond. Like, she doesn't owe Catherine that, and so she's not gonna, like, this is a very pious woman as well, so she's not going to risk that. She knows that not only would she be betraying her God, but she could also, she said it herself, they do a very thorough investigation in the court, and so if she's found out to be lying, she knows what could happen to her. She's seen what horrible things can happen to the people that she loves.
And I feel she's too honest that I don't think she'd go out of her way to sabotage Catherine, but it's I'm not going to lie for you.
Right.
And now it's definitely going to be a who believes who statement of, well, this person said this person said that. But Catherine has a great point. Well, did anybody see us?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
She's like, well.
Yeah, it's kind of like Easy A. Like, oh, we were just, jumping on the bed.
Except for the fact that Arthur told Maggie what actually happened. And so now it's kind of like indirectly Arthur's word too, even though he's no longer living, because he did tell somebody. And I love how Catherine tried to make all these excuses. I couldn't even believe her.
He did it because he was embarrassed.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Maggie said she loved Arthur a lot, but
As a son,
and yet we don't know, was Arthur just lying to her just to make it sound like, because as Catherine said, she and Arthur agreed to kind of let people believe more happened than it did. You know, at this point, Maggie, for me, I don't trust her too much. I know Queen Elizabeth doesn't trust her. She still blames her for the death of Arthur. She says, how convenient was it for you to send your own children away, and yet here it is, my son died. So there's this friction between the cousins, you know, Maggie and Queen Elizabeth, that I find interesting. So Maggie, I'm still on the fence with her.
I think Neela J in the chat agrees with you. Maggie will probably end up saying something.
See? Yeah, she's a little shady.
Welcome and hello, everybody.
I don't trust her at all either. I think that's like, I'm just thinking, I can already see that that's what's going to trip up Catherine's story when it does finally come out, is that Maggie's not going to back it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it seems like Maggie really wants to just get out of the space. Like, she'd rather be in the countryside at home and not dealing with any of this drama. So I don't know. I think she doesn't seem to be trying as hard to get away. But it does seem, okay, when the kids had the candy, it looked like their dad was watching them. Right. And I kind of was like, are they getting poisoned? Because he seemed really suspicious, but I think that was asking the question.
That was the royal chaplain Wolsey interviewing the children.
Okay.
And Richard Pole, Maggie's husband, saw that he got on the floor and was like playing with the kids and giving them candy. Yeah. But he was really interviewing the kids because, you know, kids will definitely spill the beans.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. My kids always tell on me for any, like, they're like, oh, mommy lets us jump on the couch and nod around, Daddy. I'm like, why are you saying that to your father? So yeah, they always let it slip.
Yeah, I think with Maggie, she likes her role. She would love to avoid the drama, but she likes the perks of this being her family. She gets, you know, to live a life of wealth. You know, there's a little bit of financial stability there. But yes, at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. You get a comfortable life, but you might get shanked in the back. You never know. You got to always be, you know, looking at your back, watching your back.
Yeah, so I was really curious if, you know, they all want, like, it seems like they all want Catherine to be with like, they want the Spanish alliance. So why wouldn't Maggie just say, yep, that's what happened, like, so that it just continues and then she doesn't have to be in it? Because she knows that Elizabeth really wants, like, something to go on. So, like, it's like, I don't want to piss off Elizabeth. She already killed my brother, her brother. Who else is she going to kill?
Right.
You know? So why wouldn't she just be like, okay, yep, that's if it's only her and her, like, handmaiden, why wouldn't she just say yes?
That's a good point, because in addition to Catherine being worried about the alliance happening, they were also the Brits were worried about their money. They were worried about getting the dowry because, again, this is a financial transaction, not just a romantic thing. So that's a good question. I think Maggie just lives in fear.
Yes.
I think she constantly lives in fear. And I found it interesting. There was a scene where Maggie tells Catherine, hey, I told you, your ambition is going to get the best of you. You have to watch out for these people. But at the same time, you're right. But look at that. She's not even, here's the new girl, Catherine, in town. And Maggie's like giving her the heads up, which is kind of like betraying her own family, you know? So it's like, where is she standing too? She's wavering a little bit.
And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that Maggie knows that the real truth, like, I think that because she's seen what can happen to her own family members, I just think that she doesn't want to risk her own life by lying under oath and I just think she's really, like, scared. I think that's what her motivation is at this point.
Agreed.
Now, do we approve with Catherine's ambitions and tactics? We have Sadie Cat in TV in the chat says Catherine is just trying to survive. I think Catherine has the right plan because she's not killing anybody to move ahead, and she's like, this is my destiny, this is what I'm going to do, and maybe going around about things a little differently than people are used to, but
isn't that what everybody's trying to do
that's
back
what everybody's
then?
doing, yeah.
Because, like, you're either going to die of the sweating sickness or childbirth or whatever.
Right.
So, like, you might as well try to be the queen. Right?
I think Catherine also is like, you know, 2 people were murdered for this transaction
then
to
it'd
occur.
be in vain.
You know, my mother has worked so hard. I've traveled. I've come to this cold place. This kind of has to happen for me. You know, I already had to make out with a guy with a bowl cut. You know, I've suffered. So I think everyone's trying to survive. And we have to think about the role of women back then. They were kind of just property and being forced to do things that they didn't want. So fortunately, she has wealth on her side, but other women at that time did not. So they didn't have many choices because the people were making the choices for them all the time.
Well, and if you think of your options as Catherine, like, okay, you're about to be Queen of England, then your husband dies. Then what are your other choices? Like the old man in Scotland? Like, I would absolutely take Prince Harry, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Like,
well, and that's like a case where she knows what the option is and is like, well, he might be a little bit of a brat and, he maybe lied to her, but of all the options there could be, at least he seems like an eligible bachelor.
And I think she genuinely does have feelings for Harry, too. And so I think it's also that, is she's thinking, well, this is the guy who I fell for, who I thought I was in love with, and so what's the big deal? I kind of want to be with this guy, and he obviously wants to be with her right now. Yes. So so
well, and they're teenagers. Like that's the other thing we have to think of. Like they're young. Like okay, one died, on to the next.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but and then. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, this is the guy she wrote the letters to, so she has a bond with him.
Yeah.
Then it's going to take time to bond with somebody else. She's like, this one over here is already good, so let me just work with what I got.
Yeah.
Sure, we checked the merchandise.
Yes.
Almost. Yeah. The letters told a lot, probably.
Yes, they did. Speaking of working with, we are working with so many shows here at AfterBuzz TV.
Yes, we have. So you're obviously on the drama channel right now. We also have the sci-fi fantasy channel, animation, reality, red carpets. So make sure to click that subscribe button to this channel and the other one so you can be up to date on all the awesome programming that comes out of AfterBuzz. And we can't do it without you. Also give videos thumbs up, leave comments, iTunes, leave a rating. Let's get the 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Get up to that 5 because 1 through 4 don't work. And we appreciate so much listening and watching because you're helping us be the ESPN of TV talk, and we can't do it without you.
Thank you. While Harry and Catherine are courting each other, I found that the scenes of her playfulness with him was very interesting. When she was sword fighting with him, I was like, wow, she really gets it from her mama.
Yeah. And so it's actually, speaking to that, that's another good example of how they've taken a lot of creative liberty and shown a character who, in her time, she probably, like realistically, would not have been acting that way with him.
Totally.
And she, especially sword fighting, like that was just not something that someone, not even just because she was a female, but also because she was royalty, she just wouldn't be behaving like that.
Right.
And that's just a very, obviously they took liberties, and it was still really fun to watch. And I love that they're doing it for the reason that we are seeing a strong female role, and I feel like that's very important right now.
Definitely. I think it'd be boring if we saw this character just like laying in bed, getting her hair done. I like the fact that she has some spunk to her.
Well, they probably do bridge that gap because her mom fought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you go, yeah, sure, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
I did like how though she went and like sat with the book.
She's like, oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
Kind of like the put makeup on and then jump back in bed. I think that's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh, it's
her
so
hair
cute.
was down.
Yeah.
And I like how you could tell he was liking her because he was walking this way. They walk that way. And then he turns around and keeps going back the way he came. I'm like, wait, you were all right.
Yeah, you're
apparently
going the
he's
other way.
smitten already.
Yes. And what I loved in that scene also, did you see that he was holding some animals, like some rabbits,
the rabbits.
that he killed with the crossbow that Catherine gave him? So Catherine gifted Harry Arthur's old crossbow, and he just happened to be walking down in the fields with the rabbits and the crossbow. It was very romantic.
I feel like he plays the game the same way
Yeah,
she
very
does.
much so.
And he even said, I think it was actually that conversation with the book. He was like, you know what? I'll teach you how to play my grandmother, but you have to teach me something too. And he didn't even think of it. And they were joking about the sword fight and how he was going to be the best. But I feel like that's what he is a player, just like her. They're playing different games, but. Yeah.
If we didn't already know what the outcome was, I'd think that they're like a match made in heaven.
Yes.
But it's nice to see the active flirting too, because it's fun for us as audience. It's like, oh, it's cute and fun and sexy to watch, because the sword fighting is visually interesting for a show. Maybe they didn't do it, or they did something a little more mundane, but it's like, ooh, this is cool versus playing chess
or tea time.
Exactly. We'll get into more of some of those facts in our Keeping It Real segment. So speaking of Harry, I love at the church during the funeral, he also says that the people of the area are feeling Catherine's pain as well, and he admitted that he wasn't kind to his brother and he felt guilty. And I was like, oh, okay, we're seeing some growth here from you. We also were laughing at the fact that he looked like such a different guy with his hair smoothed down and clean cut for the funeral.
It's like going to church. He had to clean up.
Yes, exactly. So, and like you mentioned, he offered to teach Catherine during this courting process, because they were doing, how to play her grandmother, which that grandmother is hardcore, so she's going to need some help.
She's got to keep her hands to herself.
Yeah.
Yes, that was so
So the scene that we're referencing is when the grandmother is trying to find out if Catherine is pregnant.
I know the early signs.
Right,
Like,
whether she's had her...
Are you sore? Let me see.
Yes,
Like,
and she puts her hand, attempts to force her hand down Catherine's dress, and Catherine has to fight her off. But grandmother is not playing any games. She's like, listen, are you having a baby or not? I know what the signs are. Are you sore? Are you moody? What's going on? And grandma is just hardcore.
And that's the question I have. How does she think? Because they're all expecting that there's going to be a baby, and Catherine's going along with it. Yeah, there could be. How does she expect to go from that to, oh yeah, we never did it?
Well, she was very slick. She said,
I like the
when my brother died, I didn't have my cycle for 4 months, so I don't know when it's gonna come. Maybe she had a clapback answer for everything. Grandmother was like, when are you gonna get your period? She was like, I don't know. It comes and it goes. So she had an answer for everything. And at that point, that's when the grandmother also said, you are sly like your father, like a fox, and not like your mother, which I found interesting.
I also like Catherine burning her little period pad thing, which I was like, destroying the evidence.
So then Catherine and Harry basically proposes to Catherine, but he has to get permission from his father, who then has to get permission from the Pope. And I found that was interesting because having to go through all those people, but I was just happy that it happened. I was like, okay, I was like, is this gonna happen? How is this gonna go through? But it was cool to see that all of this was going on at the same time. Queen Elizabeth was pregnant. Now she's pregnant, she is having pains, and then suddenly she goes into early labor. Do we think it was the stress of losing the son, the fears, the nightmares that she was having about losing her brother, and all the stress that made her have an early miscarriage? An early birth?
I feel like based upon what ends up happening, where she keeps urging him not to allow Catherine and Harry to marry, that news of him coming to ask for permission could have set it off. I also think, just from watching it, it seems like it could have just been the baby was positioned in an awkward way and it was causing more stress on her body. And so when she did give birth, maybe in today's society, they could have given her a C-section.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I'm like, oh, it's probably the wrong. I thought maybe it was the wrong position. And also how stressed she was. We've seen her constantly, are there people threats and freaking out. And you're like, that is never good for your body, even without being pregnant. So it's like, of course that life is just like, oh, nope. And so that was just so unfortunate, all that trouble. And we don't know how long, which far enough along. And it's just like, oh, that sucks.
I know. That scene was horrific to see the stillborn baby, and then her saying, I'm going to go see my son, I'm going to see my brother, and her family realizing, okay, she's not going to last through the night.
And the kids don't even get there in time to say goodbye.
I know. But it's funny because here it is, the family's going through this whole thing with the birth, and Catherine's over here okay, plans in motion, writing the letter to her mom, oblivious to what has just happened in this household.
I was waiting for someone to deliver a message to her, be like, by the way, shit's going down on the other side of the castle. I know you don't know. So it was such a complete opposite. It was literally different worlds.
Yeah.
And,
and can I just say, when Catherine tells Harry that, so I'm kind of still a virgin. I'm not going to drop it. You got to figure this out. Come with me. Let's do this together. And he was like, oh, we could be married. I was just like, oh, it was just so perfect because she didn't have to say it.
Right.
No, so it's the best plans are the ones that they think they've come up with.
Exactly.
So she's like, yeah, and then he thinks it's his brilliant idea.
Oh my God.
No, it was great because she's like, oh, you would marry me?
She's sitting there behind the scenes.
Exactly.
The sign of true brilliance.
So we have this newly engaged couple, but then we also have the brewing romance of Oviedo and Lina that really went to another level in this episode. So the Prince Harry, after sword fighting with Catherine, ends up cutting Oviedo's hand playfully, but he was still bleeding, which leads Lina to try to cover his hand with her scarf, and that leads to another torrid hallway kissing session and a little bit more touching. I was like, yes, we are moving along with this romance.
I think they played that out very well in terms of, one, he already feels there's some chemistry, does the initial kiss of all right, you good? We on the same page? Okay, and then proceeds to like maybe be a little more private, and then he is definitely more the giver. That was like, yes, thank you, a storyline where it's the women receiving and not like having to do something for him, because often it's the other way of you're like, yes, do this for me, woman. It's like,
well, now thinking about it, you know, she's higher than him in rank, I guess, because she's in the court, and that comes to play when they're having their first date at the bar. She's like, I can't hang out with you soldiers and you lowlifes. But in the hallway romance session, she kind of was able to let go. She has to always be on point. She always has to be watching her back, watching the Infanta's back, and looking out for everyone.
He was helping her relax.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel like that's always going to be their issue, though. Is that Lina's always torn between being part of the royal court and giving him a chance. Like, it's been that way since they first met, because he's very different and unlike her in certain ways, but he's also one of the better characters on the show in terms of his honor and his integrity and just everything kind that he's done.
Now, quick question on that romance. How did you all feel with that scene? So sitting down and eating, everything's going fine. When his friends show up, he kind of talks to them of, I did the thing you told me to do for our date. And it felt like she goes, wait a minute, like this wasn't all organically your idea. Did it come across that way to anybody else?
I didn't pick that up. What I picked up was that here it is. She thought he was like a man that has his own thoughts and his own mind and his own person. Suddenly these British soldiers come up to him, and then he's playing the fool like these are my homies, we should trust them. And she's like, no, you shouldn't. Whose idea was this? But to me it seemed like she suddenly felt uncomfortable and was questioning whether or not he was the person that he'd been, like a strong-minded individual.
Well, and I also thought it maybe made her question, like, what am I doing?
Right.
Kind of like, ooh, this is a little more than I can handle.
I took it in a very interesting way too, in that I felt like these men were kind of a threat, and that he was trying to diffuse the situation, and that was kind of trying to talk her into staying, so that it was kind of like, not what it could turn into, to get them to kind of relax more around her, so that there wouldn't be another situation where some random guy was trying to assault her.
But the funny thing thinking about that as well is that Oviedo had said to her, are these the kind of people that you're going to marry, these boys, when Harry cut his hand? And here it is in the bar. He was acting like a boy, being so happy that his friends showed up, but then his friends are disrespecting her and peeing next to her.
I was waiting for him to stand up and say something like, oh, you speak English? And like him to be like, no, she knows it really.
Yeah, it was a little off. So we had that romance happening, so we'll see what happens with Lina and Oviedo. Fortunately, this week, Rosa stayed out of trouble.
For now. That we've seen.
But she was like, to show that she's kind of on a different level and not really paying attention, she was really waiting for Catherine to be pregnant. She was like, should we start, building
making the baby clothes?
It's like, no, girl. She's had her cycle. Like, where are you? Aren't you supposed to be paying attention to these things?
Yeah.
And then moving on to another couple, we had Meg, who, poor little Meg, she's still on target to marry King James of Scotland, and she doesn't want it to happen. She's stressed out about that and really unhappy.
Well, and her grandma's like, oh, it's okay. I had my first period and then I got pregnant. And I was just like, oh my gosh. At 12.
Yes, I found that very...
But technically you died younger, so... Right. But still, that's still young.
That's,
Like what, after your 7th baby? Like, at like 20?
No, but I mean, like, lifespan, you wouldn't, like, to live to 60s would be ancient or something, so... But, we would think more like 15, maybe. Somehow 12 is like, whoa!
I mean,
whoa.
I think that they would pair
be a
people
mother
at 12, but, to actually... Like, I was reading somewhere, too, that teenagers, it isn't like what we think. Teenagers, even back then, like, they didn't say, oh, go off and sleep with each other. They didn't necessarily need you to do that at such a young age, even if you were married.
Okay, good, but just the thought of her being 12 years old and then having a baby at 12 or 13, I was like, whoa. But, I mean, I guess things don't change. It still happens today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We also then see that Maggie and Richard Pole, their relationship is in turmoil. Like she's fearful of what's going to happen. Her husband's like, you got to watch your back. You know, I know this is your cousin, but we basically aren't safe here. And it just leaves their relationship kind of in a bad place.
Make your peace.
Exactly.
Which she tries to,
Yeah.
almost like, I'm going to help out at the birth thing. Like she came as a concerned fellow mother, like, I'll help out. And nope, did not go well.
But when Queen Elizabeth put it into my mind that it was convenient that Maggie's children left before the sweat came, I was like,
But I don't think that was intentional.
I don't think
though.
so either.
Like, I think Maggie really does care about her, but she keeps getting the shaft.
Yeah.
Like, I really do think she cares about them because, you know, she loved Arthur like a son. And I think it's just because Queen Elizabeth just kept, like, being like, no, you have these ambitions and this, you could, like, they could dethrone them. I think is like her thinking too. So, you know, it was a weird life back then. I mean, you look at it, like, King Henry is always like, oh, this is going to happen. He's always stressed out too.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that she just can't be comfortable with anybody else.
Well, we'll see. We'll discuss my thoughts on Maggie and our predictions. But speaking of a weird life back then, we also like to talk about what life was really like back then in our Keepin' It Real segment.
So, I need to live up to that. Okay, so there were two major historical inaccuracies in this episode. The first one I really want to stress and point out is that baby Catherine, which would have been which was the child that was born and died instantly, the stillbirth. Baby Catherine was not a stillbirth. She was born and lived for about 8 days. So she did pass away pretty quickly, but it wasn't she was not born as a stillborn. She actually lived. Same thing with Elizabeth. She didn't die instantly either. She lived another 11 days. So her baby died first, and then she passed. And what they believe is that she died from postpartum infection. And so it was basically she died from chills, a fever, but it wasn't just instant like that.
Right.
It did take, over a week.
Couple of days.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I really want to point out is with the Harry and Catherine marriage, the consummation of the marriage, which was a huge thing in this episode because of the way they're portraying Catherine. It did not. There's speculation over whether the marriage was actually consummated. We don't know. We know Harry's side right now. We know Harry's side. We know her side. The inaccuracy, though, is that Catherine most likely would not have lied. She was a very religious person. She came from the Spanish Inquisition, so it's beyond just, oh, well, what are they going to do if I lie? It's more, okay, well, she wouldn't have done that in the eyes of God. And also, the real Catherine did not act the way that they are portraying her in the show. She was not that outspoken. She was more, she was a lot quieter is what everything I'm seeing online. So the chances of her being so bold as to try to get with Harry and lie specifically for that reason would not have happened. The other thing is, and I know you guys mentioned this before, Harry was born in 1491. So at this point, so Catherine died in 1503. So Harry only would have been about 12. So this would not have been happening while Catherine was born.
Right.
Especially the way that Harry is acting. Like, it wouldn't have happened like that. And so, yeah, that's the biggest thing is that it's a very debated topic, and they still don't know what truthfully happened. But the reason why historians believe Harry lied is because he wanted a male heir, and Catherine was never able to give him one. So that's why after a while he was actually with Mary Boleyn, and then Mary Boleyn was okay with being his mistress. When he wanted to be with Anne, Anne was not okay with that. And so that's why he started the process of saying, oh, well, Catherine did sleep with my brother to get the annulment.
Got it.
And so I think the most important thing you said, though, was that, she was so religious, and
Yeah.
they had to get the Pope to bless it in
Yeah.
order for
Yeah.
it to go forward. So that's
Yeah.
why I believe like there's no way she would have been okay with like the rest of her life living out like that when she could
And
easily go
she-
marry somebody else.
She never changed her story until the day she died.
That's right, girl.
yeah.
You gotta stay on course.
So wait, what was the story that changed? As in, she changed it the day she died?
No, she never did.
Oh, never changed it.
She always said that she did not sleep with Arthur.
Good girl. Now, Arthur and Catherine's marriage didn't last, but we do have a marriage that did last in our news and gossip segment.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So the news today is that it is the 1-year anniversary of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So not quite a lifetime yet, but they're on the road to their happily ever after. And Tsahai actually was at the royal wedding.
Yes, we have some pictures here of my trip to London, to Windsor. So this is where you got off the train. I have a photo of Harry. It says a banner that says Harry and Meghan Central. This is what we saw when we got off the train in Windsor. That's me holding one of the flags that I purchased with Harry and Meghan. And then we have Windsor Castle. The day after the wedding, I actually went to Windsor Castle for a tour along with the rest of the world, as you can see. And then that's inside the castle, and that's the chair setup. That was actually, this is the day after the wedding, so that's how the chairs were set up. And then we have the flowers. Those are some of the actual flowers from the wedding that were still in the castle the day after the wedding.
Oh, that's nice that they left it there.
Yes. And then I have a little video of the procession as I watched it. I waited for hours with the world. You'll see right now. It was great. This is where she waves to me.
That is just so incredible.
You were were you really close, or is that
I
a lot
was
of
really
Zoom?
close.
That looks like
No.
you're very close.
I waited for hours with a lovely family from Philadelphia. There were
Aw.
mothers, daughters, people from all over the world there. So it was a great experience. So
What was the energy?
that you hear me
Just
screaming
like
the
that
whole time. I mean, people thought I was crazy for going over there. I'd never been to London before, so I thought, hey,
Fun
what better,
excuse, yeah.
better
Yeah.
time. And it was nothing like I've ever experienced before. The energy was amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I had a great time. So now,
Sadie Cat in the chat likes the photos. Says love the pictures.
thank you, Sadie. Thank you. Now we'll get into some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Because even though this is historical fiction, there's a lot of fiction in it. Like, even if we know kind of where things are going, it's the how.
Yeah, I'm playing off, I'm focusing on the show. I know it starts making me a little confused if I think about what really happened. So I'm focusing on what the writers are writing. So who wants to start?
Oh, I didn't like that I thought it, but I'm like, I think Oviedo's going to die. Later, like not yet, but he's going to do something, and it's going to be like him and Lina they've gotten better at their relationship, but something he'll die like saving her or protecting her later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Harsh. Okay.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, oh no, I don't want him to die though. But
Yeah, that's really you like really thrown me off. I'm just like, I can't even wrap my head around
Come
that.
back from that one.
Yeah, no, I really don't have too much right now. I'm just like, I really want to see how this is going to play out with Maggie and Catherine, because I feel like there's this, like they were kind of like, okay, we're on the same team, but now she's like, oh no. Like, I am not on your side at all. So
I wonder how she'll react when they go, by the way, your cousin's dead. And it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so it's like, because she doesn't know yet.
Right.
I don't think she.
Yeah, no, because she was, they're like, get out of the room and leave. And so it's
Yeah.
like,
And then Catherine's like twirling, like, I'm going to be Queen of England.
yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking Elizabeth. Well, because Elizabeth's not around anymore. So.
Yeah.
Well, then, Elizabeth did apologize to Maggie on her deathbed, which I thought was. Why do
told
you
her
think
husband,
she did
tell
that?
me I'm sorry. Tell her I'm
Because
sorry.
she went to heaven. Like, she was like seeing all these visions. I feel like that's why she like went to heaven and was like, okay, I've killed everybody I'm related to. I need to like make peace.
Or do you think it was part of the curse, like her trying to make amends
Well,
for
what
the
did she whisper?
That's what
That was
I
the
want to
other
know.
one.
And that's what I want to know. Is it historically accurate? Did she really tell King Henry, don't let him marry Catherine?
I didn't see anything when I I was searching for that. So something tells me that didn't actually happen. But for next week, I'll search again.
We'll dig a little deeper.
Yeah. I am curious, the way that they're setting this up with Catherine lying, like she is the one definitely at fault making this huge, betrayal. Not, for that time period, it is considered a huge betrayal. And they're making poor Harry look like he's getting into this marriage under false pretenses. And so I think that they are going to make Harry look like more of a victim than real life. And that when he does start cheating on her, I think that it's going to be because she was being kind of manipulative and he might have found out, or maybe like that his brother gets too involved and like even though obviously he's gone, maybe the memory of him, like it's Catherine just
So wait a minute. So you're coming from the point where you think they actually had sex and that she's lying?
that
Catherine and
Arthur?
Yeah. You really think they had
Oh,
sex?
in real life? Or
On the show.
On the show, yeah. I think they definitely had sex. And she's lying about
I
it.
don't think they really had sex.
I definitely think they
on the
did.
booth. Didn't they show us them having
Yeah,
sex?
I think they did.
Well, we don't actually see. Let's be
They
more
could have
explicit.
been
We don't
dry
see
humping.
insertion.
We don't
yeah.
know.
It's been
We don't
fingers.
know.
It could have just been some
You don't always
touching.
have to have sex in order to orgasm.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So we don't really
The way
know.
the show portrays it, I'll say she did.
I think
You
she's
think so?
definitely lying, and I think that you can tell when she talked to Maggie, and like just the way that Catherine looked, like
playing
oh, I
coy.
don't really believe myself, like, but Maggie, you need to help lie for me.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
did
I'm
kind of
thinking.
seem like
Yeah.
that. Like, okay, let's just go along with
Yeah.
this. It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah.
can I also? There was one other thing that I thought was really funny was when she was like saying like, "Oh, Harry, you don't look like you've been eating. Like, you need to
Yes.
eat because you never get bigger." And like all the pictures we know of Harry later, he's like very fat.
Right.
So I thought that
is
was really
funny.
cute.
That's a good point.
I think that Maggie we're going to see some issues with Maggie. I don't trust her. She and the husband, I don't know, something's a little
Yeah.
off, and I think she's going to do whatever it takes to save herself. What were you going to say?
Just that Refinery 29 did an interview with the writers, and co-creator Matthew Graham said that the choice they made was that she had slept with him.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
So now
yeah.
I'll switch gears.
Because they had to make that choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want to believe my girl Catherine. I like her.
Right?
Well, thank you guys so much for sticking with us this episode of The Spanish Princess. My name is Tsahai Wilson, and you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Say Hi Tsahai.
And I'm Rachel Goodman, and you can find me on Twitter at Rach Goodman or on Instagram at Rachel Radner Author.
And you can find me online at Kari D. Lane. That's KaridLane.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Virginia Reina.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.